Have you had to listen to criticism about your child's abilities or their behaviour, or have experienced opposition towards the choices and decisions that you make about how you parent your child? This channel is for parents raising children with individual differences, whether that's neurodiverse needs, physical needs, or a medical condition, to stay empowered whilst they navigate through procedural challenges. So on my journey of raising a young person that's living with autism and ADHD and other medical conditions, I've definitely had a naysayer or two or three, in fact, many. I've definitely learned a lot as I've advocated for him in primary school, secondary school and further education, and especially navigating other people's opinions about what he can do and what he can't do. So in this video, I want to talk about what I learned through ignoring the naysayers and ensuring that my child received the right support for his education, development and well-being. In hindsight, it's so easy to connect the dots, but it would have been a lot easier if I knew what to look out for. But before I go on to talk about what I learned, it might be easier to look at who are the naysayers. Naysayers could be anyone from other parents at the school gates, professionals, family members, people in the community, and even friends. They tend to be individuals that may oppose or criticise or have a belief about something that's different to what you want to experience, whether it's with a good intention or not. What I found quite common was their opposing views about how I chose to parent, my child's abilities, and the choices I made about how I wished for my child to experience his learning, development and well-being. So let's look at criticising the child's abilities. This could be where individuals have been quite vocal about their views and wishes and opinions of what a child with an individual difference can do, where they deny a child's ability to perhaps go on to complete further education or go to the next group set, or whether their need to access additional support is either enough or if their need is less, therefore there's an issue about whether they can actually access support. I've shared this before, but in my experience, I was told just shortly after my son received a diagnosis by his Senko that they didn't believe that he would go on to complete mainstream education. This was frustrating, but I also recognised that this was undermining my son's ability to have a choice as to what he wanted to experience. Their objection was that he was different and therefore it was not right for him to stay within a mainstream setting, therefore denying his abilities, interests and willingness to take a chance. And there was another time when individuals from a particular college expressed their concerns that they didn't feel confident that my child could complete an advanced level course in the subjects that he enjoyed. So when my son enrolled on a couple of courses, after a while he expressed his views, wishes and feelings as he felt that he wasn't quite connecting with the subject as he thought he would, and having looked at the syllabus he felt that it wasn't the right course for him. Before you knew it, a whole room of professionals came together to discuss how they weren't feeling confident in his ability to participate in this particular level of course. Thankfully, through advocating so that his views, wishes and feelings could be heard, and also working alongside professionals in the same college that really did recognise his abilities and his enjoyment and his motivation for the other subjects, he was able to continue and complete the course. And when speaking to him, he's extremely happy that he had that experience and was able to complete it. Criticising your ability as a parent to manage. There were plenty of times when people would oppose to how I managed my child's sensory challenges. There were times when people would witness what they would describe as a meltdown, or perhaps how he would respond to particular foods and smells, or how he would position himself at the table. And there was a time when I had a conversation with another person who criticised how I approached my son's behaviour. They told me that I wasn't doing it right, and all I had to do was leave my son with them for a week and they would be able to return him as a completely changed child. Unfortunately, this is all too common, whether that's from somebody that you've known for most of your life or somebody at the supermarket or even at the school gates. And the other thing is criticising your choices. It gets me baffled as to why individuals will question your choices, as if to say that as a parent you have no choice. It's interesting how other parents or friends or strangers that you might talk to question why would you make the choices that you do, especially when there's an awareness that your child is struggling in the interim. There are times when, let's say, I've had to take the long route just to ensure that my son is settled and happy and safe. This could be, for example, travelling a further distance to access the right support, or maybe rearranging my day so that I can fit things in for emergencies. And I have had people question, why would I make that choice? I don't know whether it's actually just a nuance, and I'd like to know if this is something that you've experienced too. So as a parent, we're out there making decisions, nurturing our children's abilities and creating opportunities. And especially as we know that it can be achieved at a time that is right for our children, and not at a time that is right for the naysayer, or when they say so, or how they believe it should be done. With all this, I've learned to listen, but to continue to stay on track with the path that I want to create for my child's potential. So what have I learned? So I've learned that you will lose people's support along the way. Having the right people around you is so important. This can be difficult because you may have people in your life who are family or you've known for a long period of time. But when it comes to things around managing your child or your child's abilities or the choices that you make, it's another story. And I recall earlier on in my journey, when I was just made aware of my son's diagnosis, it was unclear to me what having autism would be like. So when I chose to share this information with someone that I would class as a really good friend, what they said to me when I tried to explain what autism meant was, how is what you described any different to bad behaviour? I've learned to see people that I've known in a different light, and relationship dynamics do change, even if they have all the best intentions in the world. I've experienced professionals that have been very keen and willing to help and support in the beginning, but then after a while things seem to tear off, like emails start declining and communication is limited, and then all of a sudden it seems that we're all singing from a different hymn sheet. And it's very clear that external factors such as budgets or resources, where they're actually limited, have a really difficult impact on people's abilities to be able to support. Things like trying to initiate something like an EHCP seems to be a long distant memory, or something that seems to be unachievable, and it's really difficult to stay empowered when you're in that particular dynamic. I've definitely learned that it is possible to lose people's support along the way. However, there are other people that come along on this journey, so it's not all doom and gloom. Another thing I've learned is to develop a thick skin. Now, I used to use this phrase earlier on in my journey. Having to resist unhelpful comments and opinions can be challenging, but having the courage to take on setbacks without a roadmap can be challenging. Judgments, criticism, negative beliefs, when that's been thrown at you, it can feel like you are developing a thick skin. And going through those particular things seems to be extremely common when engaging with the current educational system, especially when you've got a child with special educational needs. Having a thick skin implies that you don't feel the negative comments, the negative views about what other people are saying or what people believe. And that's not the case, because I can tell you firsthand that it is upsetting. However, it is offensive and it is rude. However, dealing with other people's opinions is not my priority. If anything, my priority is ensuring that my child has a safe learning environment where he could thrive. And another thing I've learned is overcoming expectations. So what I believed, that my son will have an inclusive education and that he will be nurtured by everyone. He would be included in his learning. His particular learning style will be encouraged and supported amongst other different abilities. That was what I believed. Therefore, I felt that it was possible. And it was possible. It just wasn't in the way that I expected. So that was definitely something that I learned in terms of overcoming expectations. There's nothing wrong with other people sharing their opinion, but when it starts to impact one's ability to be able to move forward through an already challenging situation, when we're dealing with scarcity, lack of budgets, lack of resources, skills, training, when we're up against these particular things, it's really important that we recognise whose voices we are listening to be able to move through it in a way that is supportive and encouraging for ourselves to then be able to support our children. Naysayers are there to take the focus away from our intentions. It's important to be mindful as others' beliefs can become those of our children and those of our own, whether that's from the media, whether that's from people that you've known, the person that lives down the road. They may have strong beliefs that they have chosen to believe and take on as their own. If I'd stopped and listened to the naysayers, my child will have a completely different experience. My favourite quote is by Churchill, which is, "You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks." If staying empowered is something that you are continually practicing and are looking for some insight and shared nuances, why not take a look at some of my other videos? Or if working with someone on a one-to-one basis, why not check out the descriptions below? But for now, stay focused, stay empowered, and keep creating progress. Thank you for listening.